All right, sweet. So it's live. So yeah, hi to the three people who actually watch this, and two of you who leave comments.
I'm not going to do
Um,
more with that attitude.
I don't need more. I don't do this for the people watching. Well,
Just busted.
those three people we do. Everybody else can bugger off. Um, so we're going to pick up on the Elemental Express, as it has been dubbed. Last time we had the encounter with the rather heavy set lady who then eldritchly or demonically had morphed into some sort of slaughter ogre type thing, stretching and ripping the skin of this old lady to become this monstrous, demonically infused ogre that the battle reached a pitch where the train had to be stopped, and the battle continued on the ground. Some people heroically fighting, and some people heroically running and hiding. Um, won't point any fingers. It was that guy. And it did. We did have the reappearance of Ko Titani, who kind of came out and was quote unquote helping in the fight. Um, some might wonder if someone as powerful as him, who's supposedly capable of the things he's capable of, he put up kind of a poor show for what he would be capable of. But the monster was defeated and back onto the train with everybody, and moving forward to finally arrive in Core and put this hellacious trip behind everybody. So as we pick up and the camera sort of zooms back to the train, of course we hear the sounds of the machinery whirring. We see our gnomish uh, friend entering the engine compartment again, perhaps to get a last view of the workings of this elemental beast before it arrives and he goes through to Postgate. All of you at this point, there's a sinking realization that as terrible or adventurous or wonderful as this series of events has been, that within the next few hours you will be arriving at Kor, the capital city of the Kingdom of Kor, one of the largest cities, if not the largest city in the known world. And with only an evening of respite there, you will once again be traveling to through the Badlands to the gate. And there is that gnawing sensation, that gnawing thought that once you step foot through, there may not be coming back. You are entering sort of a lesser, if not unexplored, world on the other side. A population of only merely a few more than 100. But at the moment, you are beleaguered, you are bloodied, tired, some of you injured, and I believe everyone was in the dining car, and then had sort of gone off on different directions to lay down and get some sort of rest as we were still riding this train. So the camera pans across each of you in your location, resting or praying or thinking, uh, perhaps dining, whatever it is that you consume in this interval. The train company, the Universum Arcanum, who runs it, is picking up the bill for. Your butler friend has already expressed that would happen. And so the train pulls towards Core, and we can see this large city, sort of Minas Tirith looking, if you will, multi-leveled with different ages of architecture. You can see as the city has grown from a one-level village to this sprawling, massive, now towering city. At the center of it is a very large alabaster tower that rises to a point and has halfway up it archways that go to two smaller towers. Those three towers are the Universal, the Arcana Collegium. They house perhaps the most powerful people in the world. That would be home and office for Keo Titani and others like himself. It is where the individuals who discovered and have reactivated now control this gate house themselves. As a group of people so powerful that when they were turned down by the Kingdom of Kor, the Southern Kingdoms, the Eastern Houses, to start a war with the ogres and goblins and orcs of the Badlands to wrest the control of this gate from them, that even when turned down, they managed to raise an army from free swords and mercenaries from inside of the capital of a kingdom that said no, and marched on this gate through the Badlands and secured the gate anyway. They don't make the laws of Kor, but they do advise them. They don't enforce the laws of Kor, but perhaps the people here fear the Arcanum more than they do the guards. The Arcanum sits as an anomaly for most of Kor. Most of Kor is used to niceties for popularity's sake. They rescue orphans and feed the poor and attend church services more as a status than actual actions. And the Arcanum, for the most part, doesn't deal in that. Sure, there are some who wish to play the political game, and so they still attend services or have adopted orphans that they've moved into the college and are raising them to be master wizards or the sword. But a lot of the men of magic find themselves separated from the ideas of religion, and perhaps that's one of the things that's become wrong with Kor, if you feel it's wrong. But it's been that way for a long time, and there are those who want to change it. They're just very vastly outnumbered. So the train arrives through this massive gate. The gate itself is in excess of 80 feet tall, extremely thick, and has a look of dwarven craftsmanship to it. The two pillars that hold the gate in the wall are crafted to look like craggy rock rather than a true wall. And the gates are propped open. The train comes into a station that in the distance you can see houses one more engine like the one on this particular train, although it has no glow to it. Whatever beast is tied to it is either dormant or missing. There are people milling about on the platforms on both sides. Everything from passengers waiting to board, to family members waiting to receive passengers, to even some vendors who are hoping to get some sort of business from travelers from the south or even further to hawk their wares at. And as you pull up again for only the second time, the third time, you can feel the motion of the train as it begins to slow. And it comes to a hissing rest at this platform. Doors to all the rooms can be opened, and you can exit from either side of the platform depending on which part of Kor you're attempting to get to. And as the engine calms and the hissing of the elemental energy begins to die down, you begin to catch the din of a city. You can hear carts and clopping horses. You can hear people talking. It has that muffled, cacophonous sound of thousands of voices with the echoes being absorbed by buildings. And out here, you are assailed with the smells of people, something that hasn't been on your mind over this last little bit of your trip with all the fresh air from the plains, and now here you are in a den of humanity that at its swelling during trade season is 400,000 people large. And there are people of all races, of all colors, walking around out here, greeting family members, hawking the equivalent of hot dogs and ice cold beer right here on the sidewalks. The guard crew, the mercenaries that are hired to escort this train, are frenetically working to offload people's bags to a group of porters. The motions that they're making seem hollow yet frightened at the same time, as the larger crates are inspected quickly to make sure that they too don't contain a goblin or other creature. But after a while, you catch your bags coming off, and they're all not horribly but unceremoniously set down. There's one guard wearing the white and gold uniform of Core standing there in front of them, and you see other people walking up, and they speak to him briefly, giving a name and describing their luggage before being allowed to claim it. And as you see all of this, KO walks up to the group of you as you're collecting your bags, and he says, "I want to thank you for everything you've done so far." And he looks directly at our priestly friend, "and for everything that you will do. I imagine that most of you are destined for great things. If there's anything that I can do for you while you're in the city, ask. As for your tabs, for your dining and beverages, they of course have been handled by myself and others like me.
I'm gonna give him a little top of the hat for that.
I know you have business with the gate, all of you. I would ask that perhaps next time that you're back this side, feel free to look me up. The Collegium can always use good men." And with that, he turns, and for the first time, you see what you thought you would have seen all along. He begins to walk towards a crowd, and 4 very heavily armored men step in around him. And as these armored men move, the crowds just peel away, as though Moses parting the Red Sea, and he walks unmolested and even unawares, perhaps, as he's looking at other things off and out of the train station. Leaving the 4 of you there in front of this guard who, after a description, points at your bags, and you're allowed to take them.
All right. Once I've retrieved my luggage, I want to, I'm just sort of looking around the city using I've been in many, many cities. I'm just trying to assess the people here, get a sense of how lawful the place might be, how maybe to go about talking to these people in a way that's going to be most conducive to getting what I want, that kind of thing. I'm just trying to do a sort of broad assessment and insight.
Okay.
I'll be silent for the moment, taking this in.
So you have a trained eye for matters like that. And as you look around, you see that at least here there are more guards than you might a person of your bearing might be comfortable with. Every exit from this place has at least 2 guards. There are others who are not milling but pathing about the place, almost on patrol. you imagine that they're probably looking for things like pickpockets and cut purses and such. Uh, it seems orderly. The people seem polite, but there is a stagnant taste of artificial to it.
What about happiness? Does it seem like a neutral city, a very busy, upbeat kind of attitude like you might see in an amusement park, or maybe a more downtrodden, we're beaten kind of attitude like you might see in a poor part of a town?
So this area in particular seems more joyous than perhaps you would think, but there are a lot of family members greeting other family members, or there are business partners here who, there's only 19 people total on the train, but the turnout seems oddly massive for that. Like I said, there does seem to be a very sense of falsehood to it.
Okay. Lastly, I'm going to turn and give a kind of sideways glance at my companions. I'm trying to assess their reaction to this town. If they seem to be happy or glad to be here, I don't know them very well. So again, I'm trying to glean their intent.
Durr's going to hang back a little bit. I mean, yeah, he's picked up his bags and stuff, but paranoia is going to be a writing presence at this time. And much like Rob, I'm scanning, but my scan is not so much for the flavor of the crowd as a whole, but more observing to ensure that there's nobody here there is nobody here for him. He still is, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. In his case, it has some definite weight to it.
Sure.
So he's looking more for the guy that has the knife that not visible. He's looking more for the guy that's standing in the corner that may have a bow.
Right. So as you begin to look around with this paranoia, go ahead and give me a perception roll. I suppose actually everyone who's taking in the scene can give me a perception check.
Hugo just seems glad to be off the train, and perfectly fine with being here in core, maybe even a little more at ease. As he collects his things, like he's not overly concerned about much, it would seem, in the moment. So I'm not going to make that perception check.
Okay.
I got a 18.
Ooh. Thargus is a bit overwhelmed, but it seems like he's got a little, holding himself a little straighter, almost like a weight is beginning to lift off of his shoulders, even though he probably doesn't realize it. That the further he gets away from, goes into this weird and new and congested region that's alien to him, the further distance he gets to travel away from his family and his father and his father's legacy. So while he's not particularly while he's more introspective than anything, kind of like overwhelmed with what he's seeing, really he's kind of dwelling on the fact that this is like stepping off a cliff. Like, wow, I'm really doing this. Like, I'm really going to get away. Like,
right.
I'm going to forge my own path. So I'm not making a perception check. More like
the other thing that maybe resonates with you, Thargus, is that although your father is not the richest man in the world, nor even amongst the wealthiest. I mean, he's well to do, and he brought you to Core when you were younger, right? When you were still perhaps the son he wished he had. And you know the stories that he's told you, that he and his father, although you are from a little further south, kind of in the middle of not anywhere, they told you stories of the big cities, and your father never entrusted you since then to go on any of the trips to Core. You were more or less sent to the outlying areas, not necessarily deals that were less important, but maybe ones that you feel didn't put you in the spotlight as much. But there's something about this place, because this is where your father and your grandfather made your family into a merchant family. This was the beginning of something. And your arrival to Core is not a continuation of that. It's there's that juxtaposition of, this is where it all started, and this is kind of where you're coming to end it, right? Jared, what did you get on your perception check there? 18.
11.
Okay, so your paranoia has you looking at everybody who has a slightly large coat. Every time one of these merchants reaches into their tarped wagon to produce this melon or this loaf of bread to be sold, you're worried about that sword coming out. All of a sudden, a lot of people's ears look a little pointier than you were thinking, or the thought of, is that guy watching me, or is he looking past me? Has kind of got your head spinning a little bit. You're not oblivious, but that sort of darting eye movement of trying to take it all in. Wolfram, your brand of deserved paranoia is a little bit different. And so as you are kind of doing that mental, okay, 2 guards there and 2 guards there, and well, she's attractive. Oh, that's a guard. And then you go from 2 guards there to 2 guards there to 6 guards there, 15 guards there. And as you sort of take it in, you start noticing that there are individuals who are buying these loaves of bread, buying these melons, standing around expectantly like they're waiting for someone else to get off the train, are standing a little too upright, a little too policeman-like, a little too law-like.
Okay. I would just like to respond to that by sort of casually walking off the platform and kind of widely around them. So I'm behind the majority of these.
So as you start that sort of, circuitous route around, you come around maybe a group of 5 or 6 dressed down guards. And as you do, you are met with this throng of guards. They're 4 wide and at least 4 deep, walking parade style towards you. Well, towards your group.
I'm going to kind of like lift an arm and sort of give a little, hey, look over here kind of thing to my group, and kind of give a point at the guards coming, and then step way out of their way.
Okay. So, he draws your attention to it. Hugo, you're from Core proper, right? From the actual capital city.
Yeah.
All right. So, as these guys are approaching, so the colors of Core are generally white, red, and gold. These guys are still wearing the very white plate and chain, with the gold symbol of the icon of Core, the church. They wear it even though it's They're not holy knights. It's the badge of city guard as well. But underneath it, they have a pink rose, which you instantaneously realize it means that they are the honor guard of the queen.
Okay.
Who at this point is Queen Gondoroy, her husband being king. And yeah, this group of what appears to be 16 individuals comes up with that sort of shook, and they stop, and you can see a mixture of relief and tension spread across other individuals as they sort of respond either touristy, like, oh my goodness, what is this? Or they respond like they're Secret Service and have been undercover. The two front guards split, and standing there is this lady. Let's see if we can share a screen here. This young lady. And she steps out from between all of them.
Max, who's crumpling paper?
Sorry, my bad.
She steps out from all of them, and looking, she looks from face to face, trying to figure out who might be like the spokesperson of the group, and it's kind of like she looks at Dur and it's like, no, and then she looks at Hugo and she recognizes you as a priest, but you're also kind of roby dressed down, whereas most of the precinct corps are wearing, furs and fancy and,
Right. Do I recognize her as the queen? I mean, is it?
Yeah.
Right, then I won't dare to lay eyes directly upon her royal visage, and I'll bend the knee and expect others near me to do the same. Like the moment she comes into view.
So as she steps out and you kneel, other passengers like the old man from the train also catches this and immediately kneels. Some of the other passengers are a little slower, like the young girl and her brother are a little slower to kneel. Like it takes them a second to catch on to what's going on. But even the mercenary guards from the train who have also come and collected their bags because their little tour of duty is over, immediately kneel. So whether the rest of you choose to or not is totally up to you. I just need to know whether or not you are.
One in core. I will kneel one knee and doff my hat, but I'm gonna have my head bowed, but be looking up so I can still see her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I follow. I'm following Hugo more than seeing her, so I see Hugo do that, and then I kind of follow his lead, and then I check his eye, where his eye's going, and I'm like, oh, and definitely kneel.
Well, Hugo's eyes are like, I would imagine at this point staring straight down at the ground, or maybe at her feet.
Yeah, like he's definitely head bowed, eyes probably on the floor.
Okay.
No.
All right, so Dur's just standing there.
Dur is standing there as balanced and relaxed at the same time as he can get, but no, he is not bowing.
Okay. So she looks around and you have that feeling of being taken in, and eventually she walks towards Thargus and Hugo at the front here, both of whom are kneeling, and she gently touches you on your shoulder in that sort of indicative way of you can stand up. So she kind of touches you on the right side of your shoulder and almost like like she's pushing you up a little bit, if that makes sense. and she does it to both of you. And then kind of chuckles to herself, and you may rise.
I'll stand up, and I'll bow as graciously as I possibly can. Thank you, my lady, my queen. And I'll step back as I sort of stumble over myself a little bit.
So one of the things that strikes you all is she's young. She's like 22, 3, 4. She is very young. Whereas the king of Kor is known to be like this 60, 70-year-old dude. But she smells wonderful. That's one of the things, now that she's that close to you, you pick up on. You see just past her, there is another woman who looks similar to her. She's not a body double or anything like that, but similar, maybe a sister or a cousin type of thing. There's definitely a family resemblance to them, who is dressed nowhere near as extravagantly, but for those of you who have any sort of taste for clothing or mercantilism, realize that she's wearing the more dressed down of them has clothing that's more expensive than most people will see in their life. And so she addresses you, Hugo, since you spoke. I understand that you and your company are who we have to thank for the safe arrival of Master Titani and the other passengers on a train. And when she says that, there's a little bit of a little bit of a cheer. I mean, as much as you can get from 11 other people. Well, 10 because one of them's dead. There's a little bit of a cheer and a little bit of a clap. And she reaches out and she puts her hand over your heart. Kor's blessing on you and many thanks.
I don't know if she'd be able to feel it or not under my, heavy wool and padded robe. But when she touches me, my heart is gonna explode out of my chest, right? It's racing 100 miles an hour. Not only is she the queen, but she's super attractive, and though Hugo is overly pious at times, he's still a man in that respect.
Sure.
And so he's maybe slightly blushing at his own sort of inability to keep it together. I only wish we could have saved them all, Your Majesty.
Had Kor known that there was trouble on the train, we of course would have sent help, but you seem to have handled it well. The loss of our Althanian friend, of course, will be a burden, but not yours to bear, my husbands. You have done wonderfully good deeds these days. And Kor is in your debt. I would like to host a party for you this evening. Well, I would like to have a party hosted for you this evening. And she turns and looks across all of you and then settles on Dur. For all of you, of course. Not everyone here is a Korvite, and I, unlike others, can respect that. But we appreciate what you've done. We core would not function as well were we to suffer political upheaval at the same time as the loss of one of our master arcanists. And we thank you. I would have your names.
I'm Hugo Durant. And I like look over my shoulder like when nobody's like immediately speaks up.
Who's next?
I'm like, yeah, what the fuck's taking y'all so long? Give him a side eye.
I don't know if you want a knowledge check. Would it be crossing the border or crossing the line to kiss her hand? Say, like in a polite fashion.
Yeah, so you would know that if it was offered, you'd be expected to, but without it, it would be akin to assault.
Okay, so I will just give her my most endearing smile, doff my hat, and thank her for the gracious invitation.
And so as you do, and your name?
I am Wolfram Van Gid. Happy to be of service in any way I may.
You see, I don't know if you see it, but the camera sees the sort of like wry look of the more dressed down female behind her as she definitely catches the double entendre there. And then she turns to Thargus, and you, sir.
Despite being dressed a little better than my companions, I feel like I'm dressed like a lowly mid-level manager. Like I should not be in her presence. So I just have my hands clasped behind my back, and I bow to her and say, I am Thargus Drogante, a minor house, I'm sure. But I really, my family, my father would appreciate this invitation you have given to me. And I would love to join. Absolutely love to join. Thank you so much. And I bow again, but this time I bow very deeply, a little too extravagantly, kissing up, as it would.
Right. She smiles. You do not see any flicker of recognition of your family name on her face at all, but she smiles, and then she turns to the other individual.
Durdrag Atso. Honor to the lady of the house.
You see like her lips kind of move like she's mulling over the name, like, okay, that doesn't happen very often here. Thanks. And she smiles. My guards will escort you to your accommodations. We would have you put up if that's acceptable. And without waiting for your answer, she turns and starts to walk off, and a large, bright red bearded, bald man steps over. His armor is gleaming white. Like, this guy spends all of his time doing nothing but polishing his armor and killing people, it seems. At least you would guess that from the size of the man underneath the armor. He has the pink rose not only on his chest, but it is tattooed on both sides of his neck. Like, this guy took his job way too serious. He steps over and he thrusts out this like meaty fist towards you all in the gesture of a handshake.
Yeah, I'll take his hand.
So as you do,
Pleased to meet you.
Oh, and he pulls off his gauntlet, and then he like slams it back out there, and he grips you all the way up, right? And
okay.
There's a force. He's not being a jerk about it. He's just a big dude.
Okay.
I'm Gervine. It is Wonderful to have you.
I am Wolfram. You are a protector of some sort of the lady, perhaps a general.
No, I have I've never served, but I am the head of the guard.
Uh, Perhaps, well, in a better venue, we might discuss the events on the train. I am curious as to the forces behind it and why.
Steve, quick question here, real quick.
Yes.
Considering what I'm looking for, this guy's setting off alarm bells the way he's moving.
S-
Not so much that he's what I'm looking for,
Mhm.
but this cat's trained.
Oh yeah, 100%.
This guy's dangerous if he was on both knees and had a blindfold on him.
Maybe not quite that bad. But he is head of the guard for a reason. Like, and then I mean, there's also a little bit of a there's a passing resemblance of him to her also. That it's enough there that you all kind of pick up on it that there's definitely a little bit of nepotism going on here, but there's a good chance he's related to the queen as it was. Whom you see now walking back towards you. And as she has her hand on the shoulder of our gnomish friend, who you can barely hear as they're coming from the engine portion of the train. Him prattling on about something about the mechanics, the mechanisms, and she's smiling and eventually walks back over with him. And she takes her hand off his shoulder and, well, that was most enlightening. And again, thank you for your part in the heroics on the train.
My pleasure.
Now that you're all together, Gervine will show you to your accommodations, and I do hope you enjoy your reception. And the rest of the guards close around her, and she is escorted out of the station, leaving Gervine standing there to show you, I guess, to your hotel you're in. So he, if you haven't collected your things, Gervine waits for you to get all of your stuff. And the entire time, he is small talking. Whatever you want to talk. This man's breadth of knowledge is very wide, maybe not very deep, but very wide. He can talk about a lot of things, just maybe not to a full extent.
Well, as I said, I was asking him about what he thought of the incidents on the train, who might be behind it.
Well, I think it would. He kind of leans in towards the group. We think it's a mixture that the southern kingdoms might have made a deal with the ogres and goblins. But it's not for a man such as myself to say. As far as your exploits, I look forward to hearing them tonight. Come with me. And he will walk you out of the train station unless there's anything else you need to do here.
Nope. Got my luggage.
Yeah, as long as we have our stuff, that's the
Yep.
important thing.
That was all offloaded, and you were allowed to collect it after a short, description of what it was.
Quick question. Arms and armaments. What is the public use, legally, social?
Sure. So, Core as a whole, doesn't. No one really tromps around in armor per se, right? And most of the weapons that are carried are people trying to be flashy rather than practical, right? So there's a lot of like gem inlaid, gold encrusted hilt rapiers, and some silver sabers that would do absolutely no good the first time they actually hit metal. Now the working class, the ones that you see out here that have gone to work on the engine, that are hawking wares, that are painting walls, things like that. Most of them have daggers, whether they are eating daggers or fighting daggers. But as you sort of take it in, no one here's really like obviously wearing any weapons that would seem, well, to coin a phrase, weapony. They all seem very decorative. But there is a lot of decorative weapons as you guys sort of step out of the train station. The roads here are stone paved. They're very Roman-esque in the way that they were designed. They have gutters on both sides of the streets. They have raised stone sidewalks in this particular district. They, as you explore further or inquire, or if you've been here, you know that the upper tiers of it, the materials kind of get more expensive as you go up. They've even gone so far as there are landscaped and manicured lawns and parks here. You don't. What might be disturbing to a lot of you is you don't see beggars or homeless. There aren't children running around playing here. And to sort of break from that enforced reality, in between these buildings, even in broad daylight, such as it is, you have alleys that go between buildings that are so tall that after 10, 15 feet, they disappear into darkness. Right? That there is something that lies under this thin veneer that is the outside of Core. But there are sidewalk merchants. Some of them, are selling everyday goods. Some of them are selling exotic things such as animals from the Eastern houses or, Southern kingdoms. So as you sort of leave, there's no large, draft animals or things like that. But there's a guy in his sort of silken robes with his mid thigh length boots, and face paint that sort of marks him as he's an Easterner. They live in these jungle-y, climate-y swamps and rainforesty type areas, and so the boots are more practical than stylish. Although even his have less practicality to them and more style. Right, there's fur and feathers coming from them that complement the colors of his robes, but he has things like squirrels and small monkeys and colorful birds in cages that he is selling, or charging a small fee for the few children being escorted by parents to be able to reach into the cage and pet them. There's another merchant, a dwarf, rather rotund, with this bushy white beard that sticks out further than his gut, if that's dwarvenly possible, who is selling fungal wines and ales. But his stall looks less like it's one that's set up every day and more like one that's become almost like a permanent building. It's grown and supported and attached to one of the buildings in such a way that it doesn't look like it belongs there, but it looks like it's part of it. They've literally dressed up this man's booth to make it look more elegant than it is. And that's the sensation, that is the palette that all of Core is painted in. You know, sidewalks for the most part are clean. The streets for the most part are clean. There are guys in red tunics that are out there with brooms and dustbins, for lack of better terminology, that are scooping up horse poop when it happens and immediately disposing of it. They haul it down some alley and then a few moments later come back out and continue this. And that perhaps might be the best encapsulation of what Core really is.
Yeah, hiding the poop down the alley. Got it.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I mean, that's kind of it.
Sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
So we're following this Gervain out of the train station and through town, and this is like what we see.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's such a way that even as he walks, he's not rude about it, but people tip their hats and stand up a bit straighter and good day to him. And it's, maybe this is your cup of tea, maybe this is overtly sickening to you, because it's that sort of, we've all had it happen in real life where someone says, "Hey, how are you doing?" or you say, "Hey, how are you doing?" and the response back is, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or they say, how's your day?" and then keep walking. They didn't really want the answer, but they wanted the platitude of being polite.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I probably don't notice that much because I'm probably rubbernecking the alleys and those things, because to me, you know, a city's just a big machine, and like all machines, I want to see what's underneath. I want to see what makes it work. I want to see the gears. I want to see
where's that poop going?
right. Was that? Yeah, exactly. That he'd be thinking like, what do they do with the poop? I wonder if they use it for fuel. You know, that would make sense if they used it for heat. They could recycle that and put it in the furnaces, and if they kept the furnace, you know. And this is all kind of going through his head as he's looking, and then he sees another feature of the city. It's like those gutters. I can see where they, where they would. I wonder where they lead to. Do they spindle into an aqueduct? I mean, you know. And this is just kind of going through this. He doesn't notice the people very much at all. He's looking at the mechanisms of the city.
That's fair. So, as you guys continue to walk, you're met with a lot of people who now are perhaps addressing you more politely and with more attention than you're used to, maybe even more so than you're comfortable with. None of them are stopping to actually speak to you or anything like that, but there is a lot of how do you do's and pardon me's that come your way as you travel with Gervain. So it's quite a walk, 30-40 minutes worth of traversing this city before you get to a section that it's locally known as the Wheel. And it's where, so if you imagine the city is laid out almost like a wheel with spokes, with these large streets that are the spokes, you have traveled up one of them and you're now at the interior wheel hub proper. And he stops and he puts his hands on his hips, and he looks at it. It's a mighty city. And he kind of looks back at all of you in a way that you feel he's bragging about his town.
Steve?
Yeah.
Over this 30-minute walk,
Mm-hmm.
very slowly, not drawing any attention, I'm going to travel just a bit slower than the group is and just sort of let myself drift slowly to the back.
How are you trying to become separated from them, or just the back of the pack?
Not quite getting myself separated. The feeling is one guy's not going to be leading us. I'm trying to pick up the tailing squad behind us.
Okay.
To figure out if it's just uniforms or if there's more of the quote unquote secret service that is following. I'm not going to try and get lost,
Sure.
but I want to see how hard we're being herded as well as guided.
So go ahead and give me a perception roll and an insight roll. I can't hear you if you're muted. Click the button. Looks like a microphone at the top.
Perception 23, insight 18.
All right. So the things that you pick up on is that as you drift back, Gervain is aware that you have drifted back. Because he does these very grandiose things where he turns like a tour guide at moments and he speaks to everybody about this establishment or, you know, this.
We're walking.
This thing. And you get the feeling that although he does seem a bit gregarious and that he is enjoying giving you a tour of his hometown, that those turns occasionally just to keep an eye on everybody. It doesn't seem to bother him that you've dropped back, but you also don't notice anybody else. Like there's no plainclothes cops following you, nor is there a detail further back that is trailing at your distance. It really does seem that the Queen entrusted this one guy to walk you through the largest city in the world unmolested.
Okay, again, I'm not going to completely separate myself from the group, but once I pick up the fact that there is a back door, I'll stay with the group. I'm not talking a whole lot. It's just paranoia is still there.
Sure. And so you arrive at the wheel, and he gestures left. If any of you need to get supplies, this way, and if not, we'll go this way for the ale and women.
Excuse me. Is there any place I could get a schematic of the city? I'm fascinated with how it functions. Not just buildings and such, but aqueducts and sewers and such. I'm an engineer of sorts, and I'd be fascinated to see something like that. Such a great city that it is. I presume that it's been
well.
Sufficiently.
I'm sure there are architectural drawings, but I will inquire for you.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a beautiful city, by the way.
Sir Gervain.
Smiles.
Sir Gervain.
Yes.
This one noted a lack in in oneself during the ugliness aboard the train, and wishes to prevent that lack again. Is there an area or a place where this one may pick up an object or a device that would extend his ability? I'm looking for a light. I'm looking for a hand crossbow.
He's like, Yeah, you need some of those little blue pills, huh? What type of device do you wish? A knife, a sword, a dagger,
This one is
bow.
well equipped. This one is well equipped with anything that has to be used. Excuse me. This one is well equipped with anything that has to be used in close. I was looking more for. This one was looking more for a weapon that would allow this one further reach, but still discreet.
You get the impression that maybe discreet's not this guy's style.
I kind of
We
noticed
can-
I kind of noticed the problem, and I step forward. Allow me to translate. He's a bit cryptic sometimes. I believe, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is looking for a crossbow, and of course bolts.
Yeah.
I look back at him for confirmation. See if I can get a nod. See if I can get a nod out of that one.
Maybe not as obvious as a crossbow in itself, but in that realm.
There are many master weaponsmiths in this town.
Great.
Left it
One of
is.
those then.
And he turns left and starts walking counterclockwise around the wheel. It's several minutes worth of a walk, but eventually you come to a couple of buildings that are set on either side of the street. One of them says Morton and Sons, and the other one says Morton and Sons.
I'm just going to look for a place where I can pick up some mundane spell components.
Okay.
Bit of grease, pieces of cloth, things like
So
that.
within a 10-minute walk of this area, you can find most shops. There are no magic shops per se. There's no one out here selling, +2 Vorpal swords of bunny slaying.
Right.
But there are shops that sell magical things, or so they say. Right. But clothiers, not as fine as where you came from, Wolfram. But there are, clothiers here. There are the only thing you don't really see is anyone selling armor beyond that of maybe leather tunics.
Yeah, I envision most of the components to have other uses, like a bit of grease or a scrap of cloth or
Right,
things like that. Like you wouldn't necessarily find them in a magic store so much as a general store.
And there is a general store here. It's maybe, in fact, maybe it's a little more your style, as it's a bit more upscale than your typical general store.
Okay. Well, I'll note in the general area they're going to be. I'm confident enough in my ability, savviness about finding my way around this city that I'll be able to find them again if I don't go far.
Sure,
And
sure.
I'm just going to go into a general store and pick up these bits and pieces.
No
bits and
problem.
bobs.
And you do so. One of Morton's and Sons does in fact have some bows in the window of it. And if you go into it and inquire about anything, if you want a heavy crossbow, light crossbow, or a pistol crossbow, you can get them all here at whatever book price is for that.
And
good.
How much to add to it? I don't want a collapsible style.
I kind of nudge him. I say, if they don't have it, I can do that for you. Give me a day or so and some tools, and I can arrange that for you.
So oddly enough, their response is kind of the same thing. It's not something that they manufacture readily, but they can do it. He does quote you some like obscene like custom weapon price, like the hundreds of gold.
I take him aside and I kind of whisper to him, like, I can do it for you for free. Don't let them take you on this. You know.
This one is grateful.
Yeah, no problem. Well, you saw mine, right? It's I don't have it with me right now in the city like this, but it's I can do something kind of like that. I tell you what, let me talk to him. I'll get the right parts. We'll get you set up. Yeah.
And again, this one expresses his thanks.
Yeah, no problem. You've had my back a few times. I appreciate it.
Nothing that Dur is wearing is obviously a weapon except for the short sword at his side. And
Right.
that it's staying in the same scale where nothing really shows that he's armed.
Sure. So, like I said, you guys can grab whatever you need to. You do see a couple of other.
Hey, Steve, would do you think it would be in my character's wheelhouse to, if we get one of those hand crossbows, could I make it so that it could like attach to his arm, like, you know, where he could just like, kind of like turn a crank and the limbs just kind of fold open and then he can use it, or that would
it would
be
sit like underneath here, and then it would.
Yeah, kind of. He could just,
If it's something the two of you wanted to do, I think that's well within the wheelhouse of the type of cleric you are. It would probably take the trial and error before it was a functional thing. Hugo, you do see two members of the church out here. They're not shopping. They are going from business to business, collecting tithes for blessings. And they are dressed well above their means. In these extravagant robes that hover just above the ground. There's jewelry and gold dripping off of them. And they stop at these shops, both actual buildings and carts, and offer the blessings of Core and the church, which perhaps is a bit sickening, for a fee, for a donation, a tithe, really. It's your duty to give to Core, so that Core and those like us can keep giving back. Orphans don't rescue themselves, you know, and the homeless don't get homes without us.
Are they getting any takers, like people?
Actually... Yeah. Like there's a lot of people who see them coming, and you see them like immediately reaching into small chests or bags or whatever, and pulling out coins, and almost like they're prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
And very few of them need the speech that goes along with it. It's more, these guys walk in, they give them coins, there's a quick prayer, they leave. And then business returns to normal.
Almost a drive-through setup.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna like go rough them up or anything, but I will take note of like whether or not I've seen them before, or if I happen to know who they might be, or
you've seen them, definitely.
I will just try to sort of ingrain their images into my mind so that I remember them.
Okay.
And I don't like turn my nose up at them per se, right? Like I'm not like arrogantly scoffing. Like if anything, since the train and the Queen incident, like Hugo has probably been pretty walled off and like just kind of along for the ride as he sort of like wrestles with, you know, some internal processes. And then now like seeing this like kind of has like snapped me back into reality, and like I've gone from sort of just vaguely aware to being like sort of shadowy and dark, angry looking.
Okay.
But I make no mention of it to anyone. I just note it and watch them.
So Gervain will hang outside or go into shops with you. Like the weapon shop he goes into, and he chats with one of the Mortons. And I mean, he's very polite about it. He waits for you to carry out whatever sort of shopping or re-equipping that you need to do. And when it's all done and we're all collected back together, shall we be on our way then?
Yeah,
Sure.
We could go back the way we came, or we can continue around the wheel.
Well, I think we should get the full tour, you know. Show us the whole thing.
I like it. And so he continues you around. You leave what is a medium-sized merchant district for Core, but what would be the size of some towns you have all been to. And eventually you end up in the Temple district. And as you enter this, there are buildings with statues to Core all over the place, like all over the place. And if you stop to read some of the signage and boards and bills posted outside, they offer different services. There are exorcisms, there are healings, there are prices for confessions, there are tutoring services, so on and so forth. And different buildings do different things. And there are interspersed here and there are some buildings without any iconography on the outside, without any statues, that when you approach them on the bill or sign, it declares them as holy houses for gods that are not Core, for Eastern houses or for the Southern Kingdoms. For example, you come across one that is Althanian. Although the two people that you see inside of it appear to be very human. They are gowned up in these very deep purple, almost black flowing gowns with these non-gendered masks on their kind of up on their foreheads, and as they catch you seeing them, they pull them down and approach you, asking if you need any services. And a few others.
Standard priests.
What? Yeah, these are. Yeah.
Okay.
They're nothing special. Just Althanians are really about their ceremony when it comes to religion. And all of you who are familiar with Core know that in order for these churches to be here, it's hard to call them that because compared to the core buildings that are here, these are like closets. They're allowed to be here because they pay a fee, right? Core was monotheistic.
Chapels versus churches.
Yeah, or shanties versus mansions. They're just still made. They're still made to look nice.
Can I get like a religion check to recall sort of like burial rituals or what have you of Althanians, or if there's like some sort of religious tie-in for their dead?
Hmm? Yeah, so go ahead and give me what?
I got a 19.
Okay. So when an Althanian dies, something magically happens to their body, as you saw, and it turns to something close to stone. When that happens, if it is anyone of true note, right? Because they're all royalty, but if it's anyone of true note, they are put in a mausoleum / museum of one of the temples, right? They're actually put up for display. And if they are no one of big note, a family will actively seek out a church or temple or something that has room for their family member to have them put on display. And it's not the same like fakeness of core where it's this we want to look good. It's that Althanians truly believe that as long as that statue is there, that their predecessors, their ancestors can watch over them. And so there's this hugely generational thing. A lot of times Althanians will go pray to their god in front of a statue of a family member or perhaps a very famous Althanian, kind of the same way Catholics might to a saint, beseeching them to intercede on their part. Because when an Althanian dies and is turned to the statue, they sit in both realms as far as they're concerned, right? They sit in the court of the gods, but they also have a physical manifestation here. If an Althanian commits a truly heinous crime, they are ground to powder. And ground to powder.
Ground to pounder.
Yes.
So I'll break away from the group sort of as we pass through this religious quadrant, but not necessarily a quadrant, but section of town, the temple district or what have you. And I will approach these Althanian priests. And I do obviously wear like the holy symbol of core and stuff, and I have like my holy book with me. Like I don't like carry it around in a backpack or something like that. It's either clasped to my hip or like cradled in my hand. And I still I'm carrying like my backpack and like my rucksack or whatever, and I have a couple of other things like weapons and stuff with me. But I'm still only wearing like the dagger, and probably a new fresh set of robes that aren't all stripped and ripped and bloody and covered in shit
And burns.
Yeah, like every condition possible except clean. So yeah, I'll approach this pair of Althanian priests.
So as you step in, they both graciously bow to you, and it's. Are you familiar with how like the Greek oratory masks worked? Right, so they worked like microphones, like megaphones. These kind of do the same thing. So their voices sound more like that, but they both bow to you, and they they say, "Brother, welcome. What may Bezdia Uana do for you today?"
I witnessed the death of one of your kind, and I do not know if it is customary to pray here, and I kind of like motion to their, shit shack of a
Right.
church.
There is one dead Althanian in here.
I just wish to say, a few words for his soul.
Both of the masks kind of bob in a knowing way, and they gently come over, and each of them take you by an arm, and they walk you over to a dish of water that has both seeds and flower petals in it, and they dip your fingers into it. They dip their fingers into it, and then they rapidly anoint you in a couple of Althanian symbols, and they roll your sleeves up so that you are bare from the elbows down, and they walk you over to the statue. They kneel beside you, and then they place your hands onto the feet of this statue. And after a quick moment of perhaps silent prayer on their part, they both stand, and one of them looks down. Call us when you're done. And they step back, and they go stand by the door, not necessarily barring entrance, but preventing you from being interrupted.
Okay. His name was Redat Nevis, right?
Yep.
I did not know you, but I'm sorry for your passing. And I hope that wherever your body is laid to rest, you will find a peace that you do not enjoy in the last moments of your life. And I wish that only I, through Core, could have saved you. And I'll stand up and sort of kind of look at my wet hands and not really sure what to do, and just kind of roll my sleeves back down, and then move toward.
So as you stand up and you look at your hands and you roll your sleeves down, you can see the wet finger marks from where they had placed your hands onto the feet that are sort of gently washing the dust of disuse, because, well, Althanian and Core, off the feet. And as it does, where it begins to dry and the shimmeriness of the stone of a past Althanian, for a moment you feel like you see symbols on the feet, and they begin as Althanian symbols, ones you're not familiar with, but it would be the equivalent of looking at Russian, right? You still know you're looking at a Cyrillic alphabet, or a backward R and a pi symbol, one of the two. But you see this, and
I do have I don't want to get too ahead.
No.
I do have Eyes of the Runekeeper, which is the Warlock invocation, allows me to read all writing. And I know we talked about it briefly last game session. I didn't know how that would translate, or if that is the translation. I understand it as writing, but
so as you're looking at these, and I said they start off as Althanian symbols, they begin to morph, and they look more like Old Corvish.
Okay.
And the two symbols instead become the words danger and serpents. And for a brief moment, you have the image of not the queen, but the young lady that was behind her flashes into your head. and that same racing heart you felt earlier when the queen touched you is there momentarily, and then replaced by this sinking sensation of despair, of dread that you instantaneously fear for that woman's life. And then the feet dry completely, and you're perhaps brought back as one of these priests touches your elbow. We thank you, brother. To your knowledge, has his family been informed, or is this simply another thing that the politics of Kor wishes to keep quiet?
I don't know. He was traveling with a human woman, red hair. I don't recall her name, if I ever got it even. No, he did not die a natural death.
We, of course, are saddened to hear that. But you have come to the right temple. Bezdiawana is the goddess of virtues and justice, and we will look into this. And you get the feeling that they might even mean personally. Not that they're, badass or anything, but it's their job.
Yeah, sure.
And so one of them pulls the mask up, kind of indicating that the ceremony portion of this is over. And he looks at you, and you get the impression that maybe he is actually half Althanian, or at the very least is a half elf. He might actually be half Althanian. And he locks eyes with you genuinely. Thank you. Not many of your kind would have come here for any reason other than seeking payment.
I don't require payment. I just kind of shrug, like it's a weird thing to what would I possibly have gotten this payment for?
Well, he's insinuating the sin tax that the church has charged them for being here.
Right. If you need any help or leads, perhaps one of my friends remembers his companion's name.
May I reach out to you tonight, perhaps?
Sure. We're being hosted by Gervain and the Queen. But
I'll be able to find you.
We're staying at an inn, and I don't know where exactly. I like everything that I've been told leading up to this moment. Like, it's just kind of been sort of in one ear and out the other as I deal with the processing of my lust. And yes, no, please see that you do. I'd be more than happy to assist you.
He nods and gives you a good handshake, and he pulls his mask back down and turns, and they begin conversing in Althanian. And
is it like an alms box or something like that?
No, they the one thing that Althanians won't receive money for is any sort of church services.
Okay.
Everything else in the world, they will charge you premiums, but this is a service that they offer for free. So as you exit, you see your traveling companions and Gervain either in conversation or perhaps looking at other signage or buildings or marveling at statues. Icarus, there is a small temple here to the God of the Forge.
Okay.
It's very small. There's no one
Yeah.
in it. It looks like it's a what would you maybe it's like less a temple, more a shrine. Like, it looks like it's self-service, right? Like you come here and take care of it yourself. But in the back of it, there is a small forge,
Yeah.
and there is,
Oh, nice.
kind of like you could stop by and do small repairs here if you needed to.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Ken. It's like a little workshop.
Yeah.
The way it's set up.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll definitely stop and take a look to see what it's. Has anyone been here in a while?
So you can see that some of the stuff is used, but none of it. So like the hammers that are here aren't laid crossed, right?
Yeah.
The forge has remnants of some fuel in it. There's shards of material on the floor, so you know that whatever was done here wasn't ceremonial, right? Because the hammers haven't been laid crossed, and it probably wasn't done by a true cleric or a true follower of the forge, because it's dirty in here, and not bad, but like it would meet a lot of people's standards, right? It's like I can remember going into my grandfather's carpentry shop, and there would be sawdust on things and on the floor, but tools were still back where they were supposed to go, right? Because it's a carpentry shop. You're going to get sawdust. But the priests of the forge are a little more, I don't want to say anal, but a little more specific than that.
Okay.
They want to reclaim bits that can be used. They want things to be clean, because if some of that dust gets into some of the mixes, it can throw off the balance and so on and so forth. And so it's been used, but just not in a ceremonial religious way.
Yeah.
Maybe locals are stopping here and mending pots and stuff.
Well, I got a little bit of work to do then, so I sort of pull up my my gear, and I put it out in front, and I roll up my sleeves, and I just without a word, I just get to work cleaning it up. I'm going to be polishing the anvil, cleaning up the hammers, getting the forge heated up. I'm giving this place a good overhaul.
Okay. At some point during it, Gervain looks in, and even though this guy is trying to usher you in a direction to a place, he doesn't seem bothered by the fact that one of you stopped and prayed. Now one of you is cleaning a shrine. He looks in and very heartily smiles at you, and you feel at home here. That is good.
I just give him a nod, not impolite, but clearly I'm busy, so I acknowledge him, give him a nod.
He picks up like a small mallet that's fallen from a table, and you see him look around for a moment, and then he finds a hook that looks like maybe it'll hold this mallet, and he hangs it for you.
Yeah,
maybe it's the right place, maybe it's not, but
probably not. But I appreciate his effort at least. But what I'm going to do while I'm doing all this, I'm going to be like, when I leave this place, that anvil will look brand new.
Sure.
It'll shine. The surface will be mirror smooth.
Are you doing this all through physical work, or are you using magic to aid it?
I'm using a bit of both. Mostly physical, but because that's part of it. But there's some magic involved, and part of the magic is going to be one of the hours I'm going to take. I'm going to use some of my divine energy, and I'm going to create out of some of my gear with me. I take out this little copper ingot, and I'm going to basically reproduce the holy symbol of Anu, and I'm going to mount it on the back wall, of this place, prominently, so as soon as people like look through the door, they'll see this.
Okay.
Looking out, I may even kind of look at the way the sun goes through the sky, and maybe even knock through like a little hole in the lintel above the door, drill a hole through it so that the light will hit that, and to illuminate it at certain times of day.
So you find yourself as you're doing that, you find yourself momentarily depressed as you realize that this city is massive and beautiful, and the inner workings of it must be ingenious.
Mm-hmm.
But without like a high noon type sun, it's gotten so big for its britches that there's not a whole lot of light to be shed here, right? It's almost, you get the impression that this section was an afterthought, that there's other buildings you walk past that are showcased beautifully, right? With the manicured lawns and what is the word for manicured tree? There's a word for it. Anyway, manicured trees. Yes, thank you. Like topiaries outside.
Yeah.
And this almost seems like it was a like an afterthought. Like this whole section was shoehorned in. Actually,
you know what I'll do? I'm going to take as much time as they'll give me. Like we're not going to be eating until we're not going to be going to this party until later in the evening. Is that correct?
Yeah. So really, it comes down to your companions as to how much time, because Gervain will stand outside all afternoon waiting for you if that's what it takes, and never wants to balk at it. And if it's something, that's something you guys can discuss real fast. If it's not something that everyone wants to hang around for hours and hours and hours while the prayer and then this cleaning and rebuilding is done,
it's probably going to take me at least 2, maybe 3 hours.
So, all right. So knowing that, hearing that, Gervain approaches the rest of you. We can stay, or I can come back and retrieve him.
I like your idea of ale and food.
Yes.
Although I do shout over to, hang on a sec. It's been a while since we played. Wolfram. I shout over him. Wolfram, if you could bring me back a sandwich or something, or maybe a bottle or something, I'd appreciate it.
I'll nod. I'll give him a smile and nod.
And then I'll get back to work.
Then perhaps we will let us get something to eat and drink before we go to the inn. I know a place. You don't mind. And he kind of smiles, slumming at you. And he looks at all of you.
I'm happy to go wherever you seek, wherever you suggest.
All right. If there's no objections, then he leads you around the wheel a little bit, and then turns down an alley, which is kind of like a smaller spoke, right? So it runs and runs and runs and runs. You guys walk for maybe 15 minutes, and you come to the wall, the one you saw while coming up to this. And against the wall are a bunch of better than lean-tos, less than buildings. Where they've been, the wall itself is the back wall of the building, and most of the buildings simply have a pitched roof, and then front and 2 other walls. Does that make sense in that description? Like, if it weren't for the city wall, they wouldn't have a 4th wall. Like, they're built up against it.
Yeah, it's kind of a lean-to.
Yeah, so there's one that has tables sitting outside of it. There are people sitting at it drinking out of wooden mugs. You see them being refilled by she's not gorgeous, but she's not terrible. Lady, she's just dipping into this large like keg, this barrel of ale. She just like dips it in there and brings it back to people. And the building itself looks more like a walk-up service type a modern restaurant. Like there's a bar is built into the front of this building, and Gervain, he points at some seats. Have a rest. I'll take care of this. And he goes up, and moments later he comes back with rather large sandwiches and roasted bird of some sort. It's too big to be a pigeon, but too small to be a chicken. It's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
And a clay jar that smells somewhere between, like, to give you an idea, it smells somewhere between pickles and kimchi. And he puts that down, and he's got mugs for everybody, and he just dips his mug into one of the barrels and drinks a little bit, and then sits down on an overturned bucket. There's chairs, there's barrels on their sides, there's benches that look like maybe at one point they were church pews, and that's kind of this business. He nods to a couple of people. A couple of guys walk over and clap him on the shoulder, and they make very jovial talk with him. Some of them are thanking him for helping him with this or that. One guy even goes so far as to thank him for coming and helping him put the roof back on his building. Type of thing. You get the impression that Gervain is a very well liked individual, and maybe he's not as fake as everybody else. To catch you up, Icarus is going to take a couple of hours to try and polish up and purify the little shrine to his god. And so Gervain had offered to take you guys slumming for food rather than waiting till he was done and taking you to the inn. So he took you down to this little base and almost literally a hole in the wall place. And he's brought back food. It's on the table, and mugs of ale that you just dip into barrels and get the ale yourself, or ask the woman to. But there's food there. There's ale, and if you're not drinking ale, there is a barrel of rainwater that you can dip your mug into and drink that if you so wish.
No. I mean, Hugo's not like straight edge, right? Like,
okay.
I mean, he drinks, as is probably custom for most people.
Right. I know. Durr said he didn't drink, so
yeah.
Enjoy rainwater, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, as long as like it's an appropriate hour, I guess, right? So
it's like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's fine.
So let's it's literally a lean-to too. So you're against the wall of the city. The building's back wall is the wall of the city. The other three walls support this very high-pitched roof. There's no seating inside. It is the kitchen, and it's like a bar service here. He went up. He got food. It's sandwiches. It's some sort of like squabby, chicken-y, pigeon-y thing, and sandwiches, and then some sort of pickled vegetable that borders somewhere between pickles and kimchi. It's what he brings back, and then you've seen the serving girl dip mugs into barrels. You've also seen Gervain dip his mug into a barrel and drink, and people from the town have come up and have been speaking to him and thanking him for help with this, that, and the other. I see you're saying that I'm pixelated and choppy. Is that everybody or just you? All right, so it looks like it's just you.
Yeah, it's just me. Like, for whatever reason, like the words are delayed from the action, and
that is weird.
Super choppy looking. Like, it's the first time I've ever had problems with
it. Let me
I'm just gonna refresh real quick and see.
Okay.
Maybe try lowering the bandwidth usage too. I always run it on 2 because I have shitty download speed. All right, so I'm going to.
No, I'm super pixelated in the actual video. It's me.
Well, I'm going to put my back to the wall and look out at the city. I probably like this place a little bit more than when I first arrived, because it seems to me the people in this area are a little bit more real, a little bit less fake. So I'm going to say I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying the contrast. Now we're seeing more of the real people of the city as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'll take a bit of meat and bread and slip it into a clean rag for Icarus for later.
Yeah, and a couple ales in, like, you know, Hugo is less sort of dour, and concerned, seeming, right? Like, you know, less stuffy, right? Like,
You are outwardly wearing your holy symbol, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, he has, you know how they do in like 40K or in Warhammer Fantasy, right? Where they have like the big, you know, holy text or codexes or whatever,
Right.
Wrapped up or chained up and toted around on their person. Like, he has that going on as well.
So at some point during your speech here, a younger man, maybe early 20s, he stands up from a table where he's been dining with two other individuals. He's had a couple of ales, you've seen him, and he comes over and he pulls up a bucket to sit on, and he nods to all of you. Morning. Pardon the interruption. And he turns to you, Hugo, and you can see that he has a bandaged right arm, and he very dead weight puts it onto the table, and in that hand, poorly grasped, is a small coin purse, and he looks at you. Pardon me for asking. I know you're dining, and you're not on your routes, and you don't have your companion with you. And I was wondering, if you're able to, and if not, I completely understand. But what could I pay you? What would you charge to look at my arm?
Let me see the wound.
All right. So he moves the dead weighted arm over towards you.
Yeah,
and
I kind of like help him put it like in a more, like, as he's struggling to move his own arm, like, I'll gingerly sort of help him adjust himself, and then, like,
he winces a bit. And as you or he begins removing the bandages, a lot of you might lose your appetite as the smell of infection just exudes from this. And it's not as disgusting and pussing as the fat lady when she was exploding, but he has a bad infection where his arm it's been cut and not tended well. And he reaches with his other hand and he grabs the coin purse, he dumps it out, and there's 11 copper pieces is what's in the purse. And he looks at you and looks at the money and has this very sort of embarrassed look on his face. He casts his eyes down real quickly. I know it's not much, and
I'll immediately like grab the coin purse and sort of prop it open or squeeze it open like one hand, and like swoop the coins back off the table into the purse, and then cinch it up and just kind of put it like in his lap. It's fine.
I cut my arm building one of the new chapels for Core, and I understand if you can't help me because I bled inside the church and it was a mess, and we did our best to clean it, but if you could look past my iniquity and help me.
I don't know how much I can do for you.
I understand.
He
moves to stand up.
No. stay. Let me finish. Your arm is very badly infected, and a blessing or restorative prayer may not fully heal it. And I'll go through my rucksack or bags.
You have medicine.
I have, yeah.
Can you give me a roll?
I have. I don't have the proficiency, but I mean
that's all right. You can roll on proficient.
Yeah. I got a nat 20.
Well, there you go. You know if his arm is not cured soon, that the infection is going to, he's going to lose the arm one way or the other. Either he needs some very good healing magic, or he needs it removed before it kills him.
Yeah.
If this one may assist.
I just kind of looked to Durr, like,
what?
You know, but like, I mean, I'm not like, what? Like, I'm just like looking to him as if to acknowledge his speaking.
If this one may apply the medicine, then you apply the prayer.
Well, I have soap and some scrubbing material. We could do our best to excavate the wound. It would be very painful.
Side note, I am proficient in medicine.
Okay, that's fine.
And probably not best done here. Would you be willing to
This one has done it in worse settings than this.
True, but people are eating. It would be very disgusting. So perhaps if you would be willing, I'd like to the man with the injured arm. If you'd be willing to accompany us back to our inn, we could treat you there. Maybe
this one's not sure that performing such acts would be acceptable in the presence that we are supposed to be attending. It may be rough and ready, but this one acknowledges your statement. Soon or not at all.
I'll tell you what. Are you? I stand up and I go to grab my bag. Come with me.
He does.
And so do I.
And we three make a line for the nearest temple of Kor.
Okay, so it's like the easiest one to get to is one of the many little temples you passed. It's a 15-minute walk, and you have any manner of services offered by the Korvite Church.
Okay.
You can even find one that's currently unattended, if that's what you wanted.
Unattended by, you mean there's no parishioners?
There's no priests in it, yeah.
Oh no. We would need somebody who's at least looking after the place.
Okay. Yeah, you can find one of those too.
Okay.
It's a young woman. Kind of not. She's plump, but she's plump because of living a good life, right? She's never hard for food, and she's not dressed as extravagantly as the other priests, but she's definitely dressed better than you or the man you have with you.
Sure.
And so she stands up and in these grand, sweeping motions, what is it that we can do for you today? Type of horror.
I'm Hugo Durant, Knight of the Order, and this is a motion to the injured man.
Samuel
and my companion, Dur, I request that we be allowed to treat this man here in this temple.
So she looks repulsed by his arm to begin with, and perhaps even repulsed by the fact that he's poor. And she steps back behind her sales counter, and well, I suppose I could offer you a discount. Of course, you are a member of the church.
We do not require your discount, and you do not require our coin.
She slack jaws for a second, like, I'm sorry, who are you again?
I am, as I said, Hugo Durant, custodian of the Order of Eternal Light, and I seek to assist this man in his
You're
healing.
one of those. Fine. And she gestures towards another room. You can take him in there.
All right, I take him in.
Try to clean up after yourself.
Of course.
Yeah.
I take him and Dur in there.
Okay. So it's got there are candles, and there's an incense burner, and there's a painting of Kor in the corner, and there's a painting of the church that is the wall. And it has clean water and rags and things like that. And if you were to be the patient, sort of lying or sitting on the table, the looking out of the room, the walls there have this sort of mural of people tithing and paying the churches, and pictures of them being healed, and babies being born, and crops. Right? It's like they're definitely selling you something on this wall. And in fact, as if you were to be exiting the room, there's even a donation box right there. But you find, if you need clean water, if you need rags, if you need the equivalent of steel wool or stuff like that, for scouring out the wound, that's all there. Okay. There is a holy text of Kor in there, although it doesn't look very used. So
I'll unsheathe my dagger and hand it to Dur, the dagger itself, and then I'll hand the hardened leather sheath to Samuel as I help him onto the table. You'll want to bite down on this.
Okay. So the intention behind this is you guys are going to clean the wound and rebind it, right?
Well, yeah. So while Dur is cleaning the wound, I'm gonna rob the alms box.
Okay.
I'm gonna at least jangle it, to see if there's anything in there.
So there is.
Okay.
Not a lot, right? Because they kind of already charge you on your way in.
Right. They get you coming and going. I got it.
But so mechanically, as far as treating the wound goes, do either of you have remove disease?
No, I think that's like a third level spell.
Yeah, so that's going to be kind of the problem, right? You're going to be able to, you could heal him, cure wounds, and it would heal him.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't get rid of the infection.
Right. So I think the idea would be, out of game, my plan is to have Dur do his best to treat the wound, with me assisting, hoping to give him an advantage on his roll.
Yep.
Okay. And then to take a couple coins from the alms box and put them in Samuel's hands so that he can continue to pay for the required soap and clean rags and things of that nature for the length of his convalescence.
So that being the plan, Dur,
And it's not really
You-
robbing. I'm just like
right, you're
reappropriating.
right, reappropriating. Dur, you do know that given this guy's station in life, his job, and what you have now come to realize is an associated cost with receiving healing from a temple. If you guys clean the wound, treat it, and he keeps like cleaning it himself, soap and so on and so forth, he's got a little bit better than a 50-50 shot that it won't kill him. The other option would be removing his arm and treating that wound. And since neither one of you are surgeons, you guys have a 50-50 shot of not killing him while you're doing it. So whichever plan you guys wish to roll with, Samuel probably doesn't like one of them.
Yeah, the one that results in him dying. I do have an additive that may come into play, and I don't know if they would or not. But the priests at the Althanian temple may be able to help him if he name drops me, maybe.
Okay.
So that'll be what I recommend to him, is that like because I don't want to chop this guy's arm off. Like, that's regardless of what Dur's capabilities in medicine might be. He doesn't strike me as the surgeon type. So
maybe you could get some maggots from down one of the alleys.
yeah, I mean, that's true too.
Put some maggots in the wound. That'll
He
clean it
can
up.
take people apart, but putting them back together.
Right.
All right, cool. So, Dur, if you want to give me a medicine roll with advantage.
Do you want me to roll first to see if I'm actually of any use, or how do you?
Yeah, please.
All right. I got a 16. So I don't know what the DC would be, but yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and roll with advantage, I guess, on your medicine check now, and we'll see.
With advantage, 23.
Okay. So there's a lot of grunting and screaming through a leather sheath as layers of rotted flesh are removed. It doesn't go so deep that you're seeing bone, but you have a feeling that you're not far off from that.
Steve, is there any sacramental wine?
Not in this room, because you have to pay for it.
This one would request that at this point go back to go to the closest tavern, whatever, and bring me wine, beer if that's all you can get. But the stronger the liquor, the better.
Okay.
At this point.
Yeah, I'll leave Dur and Samuel to their task.
Okay.
And
so between that trip and back, right? You guys are gone for probably half an hour, 40 minutes, treating Samuel. And yeah, you scrub the flesh off, you flay it off in portions. At some point, you can see the panicked look on Samuel's face of he is starting to question whether you're doing more damage than good, as he just sees his flesh being stripped away.
Wait till I burn it.
And gross. But you eventually clean it out. You're able to get some the equivalent of gin. They make it from some of the local wildflowers out here, and seeds. It's very licoricey in smell and very headachy the next day. But you come back in. You were given another horrible look from the the priestess out, at the front register.
Right now,
And
she's puking her guts.
no, she's gone about completely ignoring you. She's doing the equivalent of like reading a like a tabloid, right? Like she's that unconcerned,
She's reading Vogue magazine.
right?
And the smell disturbs her because as soon as we opened it,
Oh, it's nasty. It's nasty.
yeah, I mean, it's floating out there where she is.
But you get the wound cleaned up. You get it rebandaged. You're able to. So inside the alms box is 25 silver in total.
Okay.
You can give him any portion of that.
I'll take just 5.
Yeah. So you give him 5 silver.
Yeah.
Okay. And with your instruction to seek out the Althanian little temple up the road, and mention you.
Yeah, and use the coin to buy any sort of supplies he might need, clean bandages, soap.
He with your help, you guys fashion a little sling for his arm because it's dead from not dead, but it's numb from misuse or disuse, and now is numb because his brain's trying to turn off the nerves to his arm because that sucks.
Yeah, I will use lay on hands like once we're completely done to sort of ease his pain by obviously like mechanical returning.
One of the great things about magical healing, right? It takes away the statistical damage that's been done, so he feels better. And in my mind, healing magic always has a soothing, calming effect, right? Because your body's being rebuilt. But you both know that didn't cure the infection. But he's good to go. Like he feels great. He even responds to you that, well, I thought you said you couldn't do much, but I don't think I'll need to see anybody else. I feel this is wonderful, right? He's reinvigorated from it.
What we've done here is not permanent and will fade with time. You will need to do as Dur has said and continue treatment for your arm.
Well, I need to scrub it as hard as you did.
Hopefully,
he looks so scared with those words.
Hopefully not. I believe we were able to get most of the worst parts of the infection out of your arm. But if it does become foul smelling again, then you will need to seek further assistance.
Thank you.
And be careful not to drink too much today.
I won't. And thank you. Had I not been able to have this done, and I wouldn't have been able to return to work, and my family thanks you. And he leaves, kind of somewhere between wanting to give you a handshake and bowing as he leaves the room. It's this very confused, mixed, like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. He almost hugs you at one point, and
if he goes to like almost hug me, like I'll just hug him.
All right.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, he has a little bit of a breakdown as he's hugging you, and he goes out and he turns the direction of the Althanian temple. And you see him walk up the street, like 5 buildings, and eventually he goes inside.
I clasped like Dur on the back of the shoulder. He's probably, I don't know. Are you shorter than I am, Dur? Are you shorter than Hugo? I think Hugo's like 6'2" or 6'1".
I think you guys are roughly the same height, aren't you?
No, I'm about 5 inches shorter than him.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I clasp on the back as we walk out of this this sort of den of iniquity, and I look down slightly at you, and I'm like, thank you for your help. you clearly did most of the work there, and I appreciate it, even if Samuel had.
This one does not take credit for most of the work. This one and you each did our part. Now it is in the laps of those above us.
I just kind of nod, like.
So, out of curiosity, Dur, when you say above us, do you actually mean the gods, or do you mean a just vague sense of someone else's problem?
Not the gods, but a cosmic power.
Okay.
One that looks on and occasionally stirs the pot, but it's not actively involved. The idea is the training is still duty, honor, service.
Sure. Oh, I was just curious. Do either of you bother cleaning the room?
Yeah.
No.
I would.
I'm throwing rags in the corner, and if she wants to come in here and puke and clean it up, let her.
No.
I'm not going to stop you from cleaning. I just, I'll give you back a clean knife. I'll wash it.
Fair enough. So yeah, I'll put my things back, and then once he's sort of, I guess, on his way, I'll tend to the room and make sure everything's in proper order.
Okay. The woman out front doesn't even like dignify you with any sort of like farewell.
Me or him, or both of us.
Either one of you. Like, she has no time for your lack of money. And yeah, so you guys, you're able to rejoin your friends, and if you so wish and have the stomach for it, finish your meal. So in that like 30-40 minutes that they're gone, if you have any questions about the city of Kor, Gervain is more than welcome to answer them. Or more than willing, not welcome, more than willing to answer them. He is pretty knowledgeable about the city. It seems to be like his favorite thing in the world.
My questions would be with regards to the portal and where it is.
Okay.
Has anyone come back from it? That kind of thing.
So, well, of course we have come back. Not recently. It's been 2 or 3 months, nearly a season since anyone's come back. I myself, of course, have never been through it. He points to the tattoo on his neck rather than the emblem on his chest. My duty, of course, keeps me here, looking after my sister's niece.
At this party we attend tonight,
Yes.
perhaps if we see someone there who has been to the other side, I might get an introduction. I'm headed there and would like to know what to expect.
He looks for, like, he puzzles for a moment. If I recognize anyone, I would point them out and introduce you, of course. So, the portal, it sits outside of town. 6 or 7 hours ride in the heart of the Badland, one of the stone plateaus. I wish I had been there for its capture, but duties. So, what is taking you to the other side?
Curiosity mainly. It is a rare opportunity to be allowed to go over it all. So I am going to take advantage of this opportunity.
Good. I hear that Postgate is interesting. It's built, and he holds his fingers up like this. 2 L-shaped buildings, limited points of entry.
Yes, but that's just the established base. It is what is beyond its gates that intrigues me. It
intrigues everyone. Kings, house lords, merchant guilds, the church. He kind of leans in, elbows on each side of his mug, his fingers, like fat sausages, thick sausages, intertwined. I even hear that the southern churches have sent over agents. And he kind of leans back like that's some huge revelation.
Surely these different groups have different reasons for their interest in the other side. The Merchants Guild, I would think, seeks rare items that they might profit from. That is the business they are in. The churches, perhaps they seek to proselytize to many new sets of ears. And the Queen, does she seek to expand?
Well, that would be more her husband's purview.
Ah, of course, of course.
But I imagine, of course, he does. The lands of Kor have grown as large as they can here. We haven't known war in a long time, and things grow stagnant. And with the new homesteading that's happening on the other side, of course, Kor is looking to make a foothold. But it's easier for the church or a merchant group to send people through. There's less politics and red tape and happenings. And he slams his fist on the table. But we won't let them get ahead of us.
I'll just smile and nod. I'm basically going to agree with whatever point of view he.
And so he'll continue to talk about his theories on Kor's expansion, and what you gain from it is this guy's pretty pro Kor. And anything that well, why haven't you done, or why haven't you gone, or what's key, constantly refers back to the tattoos on his neck, and duty having bound him here. There does seem to be regret in that, but it's not like regret of his job. It's just kind of like a regret he couldn't be in two places at one time. As he begins to sort of really core it up, right? Other people have drugged their chairs closer to your table. They're not sitting at your table, but they're listening to Gervain speak, and in turn, all of you, and they begin to ask questions of you, similar to his. What's bringing you through, or when you come back, you'll have to find us and tell us what it was like. Other people talk about their brothers, cousins, roommates, dog sitter having gone through, at some point. They tell you the same stories you've heard. So they speak of the group that went through 30 or 20 years ago that no one knows what happened to them. They just gone. They talk about being rattled or scared of the concept of going through and being stuck over there. What happens if it doesn't open? Or they know it's at least when you go over, it's at least 30 days, sometimes more. They've heard stories where it's gone 6 or 9 months, or some of them will exaggerate it up to a year before anyone can come back. But no one hits you with any stories of dead bodies or missing children or alien abductions or anything like that.
Right, but my ear is going to be out for this is really in demand. Like sometimes I know there's parts of the world where the locals really want things you might not expect, like soap or toys or something like that.
Sure.
So that's kind of the thing my ears are going to be open for. What might be even demanded by the people in Postgate itself, right?
So when these, and it's mostly men, are speaking of going through the gate, like it's kind of like if I were to go, what they want is land. What they want is a life outside of the city. The city's great and it provides for them, but they are the lowest rung here, right? And there's not, without being from an important family or accomplishing some important goal, there's not a lot of upward mobility here.
Right. But I'm thinking more in terms of if they can only get back every 6 or 9 months, you're going to get some supplies that run low or run out. You know, like maybe certain drugs or wine
Sure.
or fine cheese. That kind of stuff I can smuggle over and make a profit on. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking of.
No one here has any information because no one here has been to their side. And there's not been stories of that because they're pretty well supplied. That type of thought is better for the people that that Gervain could introduce you to tonight.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
So that conversation happens, and then Dur and Hugo would, I guess, rejoin you. You guys arrive back, exiting this alley to this outer ring, and it's just past noon at this point, and so this portion of the city with the direct light down it's pretty well illuminated, and it's refreshing because you can see the city warts and all right here, right? This is as Rob pointed out earlier, this is more real than the rest of the city is. But there's a small crowd of maybe 10 people that have gathered around Gervain and your companions at this point. And they're all just discussing the gate or Postgate or if I could go type of things. And it's not one conversation going on anymore. It's multiple small conversations all about the same topic. And when someone brings up a good point or simply has a moment to command the room, everyone quiets down to listen to them. And then they break out right back into conversations. And they range from, topics about Postgate to topics about, hey, how's your sister since I saw her last Saturday type of thing. So, welcome back.
I'll just I'll go refill my mug and sort of poke it like whatever scraps we left on the table, and
Sure.
then not eat them. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm all right after all. On that,
all that sliced meat.
Yeah, on that sliced meat tip.
Dur stalks in.
Okay.
Grabs a chair, flips it around backwards, and sits on it.
Okay.
More or less, as this group is clustered around the table, turn them into an audience. He's sitting. And as he's listening to the conversation, he starts hitting a rhythm on the back of the chair. Now, the rhythm is an older country song that most folks would know. And he starts with, and this is the orator and the bard coming out at this point. Berdina Mascara and the clown of fate, who walks the hills at night and protects us from the demons, who walks the hills and protects us from the dark. No one. The high and the mighty take our bones. The high and the mighty take our sweat. Berdina Mascara comes to seal the fate of the marked clown. The rhetoric or the story is where Dur is from, is fairly well known and has spread fairly wide. I do not know if it has gotten this far yet. But the story goes on of Berdina, who walks. Berdina Mascara translates as Iron Mask, who walks the hills at night, who provides the only guardian for the poor, the weak, that struggle against the ill-gotten gains of those who place themselves above us without cause. And the voice is good enough, he's filling the room with it and continuing to beat out the rhythm as he talks. There's no singing to it. It is storytelling with almost a poetic rhythm. And as he beats out the rhythm on the back of the chair, he shifts it a little bit and he grabs the cane and he begins to beat on the floor to the same rhythm. The rhythm is bone deep. It's, you find yourself unintentionally or intentionally stomping, clapping, hitting the table to that. And a few of them would know the name of Berdina Mascara. And if they don't know the rest of it, every time the name would automatically appear, the chant would begin to pick up. Berdina Mascara is a rogue, he's a thorn in the side of the Althanians because he does not acknowledge that they are better and continues to point out what they don't do, what they say they're supposed to do. And although he's not talking about core or the core church, that current under there. And the more the more he beats out the rhythm, the more he is staring a hole right through Gervain. And he's not real fond of our monkish friend either, because that's the only representative of the core church. And right now he is so hot at the church. And the poem goes on and on and on and on, and he tells the entire story of how Mascara stood at the door of a farmer's house and held off some unknown, ungodly demon creature that was trying to break in, as the Albanian guard stood at a distance and did nothing. And how the farmer in the house finally stepped out beside him and the farmer's son with hoes, with pitchforks, and did what the armed guards should have done, and they could, and the guards wouldn't do. And this is the story of Berdina Mascara and the clown that walked the night.
Very cool. So yeah, at parts, you know, people chant along. Maybe they don't know it at the beginning, but they can at least, you know, they're smart enough to pick up on, you know, bar shanties and can mispronounce names. So they do. But you will find out that the sentiment with the church, maybe it's shared, but not openly. Right? So if any defaming of the church comes out of your mouth, they don't stop you. They don't agree. They just get real quiet.
No, nobody defames the church of Kor. The Althanian church, the Althanian nobleman.
Sure.
But the implication rides.
Okay. And when you're done, you know, Gervain kind of just nods his head. I like that. It's good. And he like hoists his flagon, his mug up in the air, and He says, "To the Queen, to the adventures, to the future, and tomorrow, for you, to the gate." And a lot of people follow suit. And they cheer you for a little bit, as they have all obviously picked up on the fact that you guys will be traveling through the gate, and be they schemers or dreamers, they also would enjoy that chance. So Icarus, you have you finished up your task a little bit early.
Mm-hmm.
And using the directions that Gervain gave you, you're able to find where your friends are.
Okay.
And maybe it's a pattern, but much like with the Queen, you kind of walk in on the tail end of it as everyone's cheering them. But the altar looked really good when you left. A young boy did stop in to mend a few knickknacks, pots and whatnot. And although not trained, he's got some raw talent for it. He is intuitively using the materials in there. Not all of them for their exact right purpose, but
yeah.
But he explains to you that that's how he makes his money. He finds broken pots and pans and things, and he brings them here, and he fixes them and resells them. And seeing you cleaning the place, he kind of apologizes if he's ever left it in a mess. He's not really sure where things are supposed to go.
Don't worry about it, son. Yeah. You keep coming here and you keep doing the work. It's got to be done. But by the way, the symbol on the back wall is up. And what I did was, since I couldn't get any sunlight in here, I made this sort of little copper bowl to sit in front of it, and that sort of hang on the wall, but it hangs underneath it. And I had to go and get some supplies, but I made a continual flame burning in it, so that'll just keep burning. Cool. So it's kind of illuminate from underneath, and all the little shapes in the symbol kind of, move a little bit with the firelight as it lights up the back.
Sure. But I imagine as the fire flickers and sort of flickers through the gears of the holy symbol, that the shadows almost feel like gears turning at times.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I'll definitely spend an extra moment talking to this kid who's probably taller than me.
yeah, he's like maybe 9 or 10.
Oh yeah, so maybe my height. So I stand there with him, and I watch what he does, and I kind of no, watch, hit like this, right there, that's it, exactly, good. Now you're doing it, and I kind of show him the color of the metal that he wants to get it at when he heats it, and I spend maybe 15-20 minutes with him since I get done early anyway. I spend a little extra time to give him just some quick tips, but say if I come back this way, I'll look for you here and maybe teach you a few more things. You keep practicing.
He smiles and acknowledges it, and you see he's digging through a sack, and he pulls out pieces and pots, and he tries to put them back together, and if it doesn't look like he can do it, he's kind of setting them to the side, not throwing them away, but organizing them. And you see that he's even taken to maybe he'll have a metal cup that isn't supposed to have a handle, but he has a handle that's broken off a metal cup, and he's like, well, I can get this to stick on here, type of thing. So his eye for art, not very good, but his eye for function is fine. You never display his pieces, but you can eat out of them.
Yep, and that's more important. So
so he continues. You hear the little tinking of hammers and stuff as you leave. And like I said, it takes you a 15-minute walk, but you're able to find your friends or your companions, and you arrive kind of at the end of this chant, cheering, and there is a little bit of break in it as they all see an octopus sitting on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you join your group and they acknowledge you, the sort of social circle that exists here auto accepts you, right? Yeah, you're a short guy who's with a weird octopus, but you're friends with these guys and they seem pretty cool.
So what have I missed?
Oh, well, Gervain was regaling us with some tales, and the bard was as well. Here you go. And I hand him a sandwich and a pickle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, he just starts eating that, and has no problem talking with his mouth full. So where are we off to next?
I look at Gervain.
Well, as soon as you are done eating, I'll take you to where you're staying. Let you get cleaned up and relax. This evening, perhaps dinner time, 5, 6, 7-ish. We'll convene for merriment. By that I mean wine and women.
Oh, good. I thought you meant something else. All right. So I quickly just down the sandwich, probably quicker than I probably should, and chase it down with a fast beer, and all right, I'm good to go.
All right. So there's some parting, goodbyes and good lucks, and bring me something back from the other side type of comments. They all sort of speak to you friendly, like they know you familiarly at this point, even though they don't know your names. And some of them will walk up and shake your hands, and a couple of them walk up to Dur and to Hugo and thank them for helping Samuel, or at least they assume you did. Maybe they killed him. They're not really sure, but they're going to assume that you helped him. Samuel hasn't come back yet. One of the guys that was dining with Sam does come over and ask you if he's okay, and if you tell him, that he's still in the Temple District, he'll wander that direction to go find him. But they kind of return to their seats, their tables they were originally at, and go about their morning, their afternoon. You get the feeling that either they're out of work or this is their this is their day off or something, but really a day off for people of their social status doesn't really exist. So maybe there's just no work to be had for them at the moment. But Gervain leads you out and back up this same alley, out to the wheel, and eventually walks you around to another large spoke, if you will, and walks you up a bit. And there is a large inn that has a picture of a chimera painted on the sign above it. And he walks up, he opens the door and gestures for you to enter. And as you do, he says, "Welcome to the Core Chimera." And it's a very opulent establishment. Go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say I'll nod and smile, happy to accept all this generosity.
So it's a large building. It's got wooden floors. It's got braziers hanging from the ceiling. It's got a large fireplace on the back wall. It is 3 stories tall. There are multiple sets of stairs that go up to it. There are people who are currently dining more restaurant style inside. A well-dressed gnome comes up. Welcome. You are the guests we're expecting. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wonderful. Are we expecting any more? No. Good. And there are 5 rooms ready for you.
Excellent.
Does it matter who gets what? I guess not. Here you are, and here you are. Handing the last key to Icarus. We have taken the liberty to draw baths in your rooms. The water was hot, but we were expecting you some hours ago, so it should still be warm. But if you need it reheated, please let us know.
I'm sure it'll be fine. Thank you.
My name is Sked. I will be in charge of the establishment this evening. Were you to need anything, you would ask for me. Your assembly will happen in a few hours. In the meantime, make yourselves at home. The Chimera welcomes you.
Thank you, Sked. And the rooms, I look around like.
So he looks at you, looks at your the little tag hanging from your key. It's a purple tag, and he points up, 3rd floor. Just find the one with the matching symbol.
I just nod and begin heading towards the stairwell.
Yeah, same with my luggage. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you guys are walking past, he's kind of talking anyway. We've chosen not to use numbers. Not all peoples use the same numbering system nor characters, but matching a color and a shape has seemed to done us well. So what he does is so Icarus and Hugo, you guys are 3rd floor. Everybody else is 2nd floor.
No.
All right, I'm gonna stop and pick up like a half bottle of wine. You know, like their smallest bottle of wine, and take that with me. I'm gonna sip
No
that
problems at
while
all.
I'm having a bath.
The barkeep here is a half orc, which is a little uncommon, but he seems very well groomed and highly intelligent in your brief conversation with him.
Wolfram is not racist, speciest.
I'm not orcist.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not a sword.
So, yeah. Anyway, I'll get my wine and go up to enjoy my bath.
Yeah, so the rooms are all identical. They have a 4-poster feather and down bed. The mattress is 5 or 6 inches thick. There are blankets and sheets, extra blankets, extra pillows, extra sheets, and a chest at the foot of the bed. Each of them has a painting, an artist rendition of a chimera in different poses. Some of them even have a chimera dressed up like in armor, or one of them fishing. It's kind of like dogs playing poker, but with chimeras and separated. And each of them has a window that looks out. The windows that you have all look out to either the street that you came in from, or an alleyway too large to be an alleyway and too bright to be an alleyway of core. So it looks like another street, although it would be a cross spoke and not a true. But there are flower boxes that hang on the outside of the windows. They are pleasantly planted with mixtures of things like mint and tarragon, like very fragrant, not pretty but fragrant plants. And there's water basins, and each of them has a large copper tub in it that has water that still has a little bit of steam rising from it.
Okay. If it's cool, I'll just do some heat metal and bring it up to temperature.
Yeah, no problems.
I'm going to. Wolfram has some fine clothes. He's going to lay out his finest clothes on the bed. As he's getting undressed, he's going to kind of look out the window absentmindedly and maybe by force of habit note exits, how quickly I could climb down to the ground, how long it would take to climb to the roof, that kind of thing. And then he's going to put a few extra towels on the floor to walk on, and then climb into the bath, disrobe and climb in.
Okay. So the baths have been perfumed and spiced. They actually have a mixture of rose petals, honeysuckle, and peppercorn in them. Luckily, the peppercorn floats, so you don't have to worry about getting it between you and the tub bottom. Because I imagine that'd be unpleasant.
Always a plus.
But they are.
Is this a bathtub or a soup?
Right. Gnome soup now, buddy. It's a very pleasant experience unless you just hate baths. I will say that after everything you guys have been through, and even though you've rested, the beds do look pretty inviting. It's roughly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and as Gervain had said earlier, we'll have this get together at 5 or 6 or 7. Like, even he pushed it further back, and in reflection, you think maybe that has to do with the sheer quantity of ale that he drank while he was sitting with you guys.
Okay. Well, I think I will leave a wake-up call downstairs. However, I can do that.
Yes,
Sked,
most definitely. He says he'll come by and knock you up.
Yeah, I'm taking a nap too.
And then I'll sack it.
Yeah, I'm taking a nap too.
To answer your question, Campus is the fastest way to do it.
That's right.
That's the holy symbol for core.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Super
Like Hugo probably hasn't really had any that quantity of booze in some time, so he'll probably rest up, dry out a little bit.
Okay.
Bathing and
Sked comes to each of your rooms individually and asks, is there anything else I could get for you? Additional pillows, wine, ale, food, companionship?
I'm going to smile and say, no, but if there's a map of the city available, I would enjoy that. Or I know my friend Icarus would point to whatever Icarus' door is.
I will see what I can do.
Direction to butts.
Direction to butts?
Mm-hmm. I got a crossbow I got to try out.
He points at his butt. It's right here, sir. So you're asking for somewhere you can go fire your crossbow? Well, give me 30 minutes and I will have something arranged for you. And what he arranges for you essentially is a sack of potatoes sat up on top of a crate out in the back of this building that you're more than welcome to shoot with the crossbow till it's no longer potatoes and it's mush.
I somehow just imagine that they would set up a whole bunch of let's say lower class citizens holding targets, kind of with their heads turned away, holding them up for them.
Yeah, it's
got to get used to the way this one shoots.
So yeah, that's no problem. He'll set that up for you. It does take him about 30 minutes to arrange it, mostly because he still has to travel to other rooms and ask. Did anyone need anything else particular or special?
No.
If you mention companionship, he gets it for you. Like, that's not an issue. Or if you say, like, I mean, if you want clothing or stuff like that, he can also obtain that for you.
I ask for companionship, but unbeknownst to everyone else, Dur's song is kind of like still stuck in my head. When everyone was getting ale and kind of in effect, the working class were hanging out. I didn't really have anything, didn't feel any kinship with them, but watching everybody being so independent, like they had this like internal motivation that has nothing to do with putting on airs for anyone else. It's like it's kind of thrown me for a loop, kind of stirred something inside of me. So I asked for companionship, but after requesting it, I'm not really into it because I can't. This darn beat is in my head because I don't know the song, but I know the rhythm of it now, and it's something that's starting to like make me reconsider what my purpose here is for. And the only thing I do is instead of wearing like what I normally wear is about like 3 or 4 layers of like fine robes and such. I'm just going to wear a fencer's quilted vestment on top, kind of keeps the sissy frill shirt tucked in, and I wear my pantaloons and
Okay.
and
Well, since you're not really into it and her time's already been paid for, she orders up a hot bath and she takes a bath, and when the time rolls around, she helps dress you to make sure that your buttons are straight and you don't have like little bits of lint on you, and she sprays you with a little bit of her perfume and tussles your hair a little bit, and
I just start talking absently about the fact that I noticed how fake this city is, and I'd never thought about it before. Never even considered it. Like, it's been like, oh, I really can't wait to be here. And then after seeing my companions compared to the rest of the city, it's like, I don't want any of this poison to follow us to this other place. And I don't know how that, whether, am I going to take my legacy with me that I really wanted to earn, or is it something that I'm going to forget? And if I do that, what do I come back to?
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
So she ahs and mhms you a lot. And with that last question, there's a lot of things that we have to ask ourselves, and if we can't be the mirrors for ourselves, often those we're with can be. But you look good. Enjoy your evening. Rob, I know it's like 12:30 for you, isn't it?
Yeah, 12:25 right now.
So do we want to break here and resume with the party next session?
That sounds good to me.
Sure.
We'll do that. Great. So that'll be the plan then. So not the 13th, but the 20th, I guess, if I'm doing math right. Not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. And
yes.
We'll get back together and we'll continue on the core bashing, and eventually
maybe we'll actually get to this portal.
We'll get to this portal that
allegedly exists at this point.
Right.
It's just a legend.
At this point, the entire game.
We're headed for the breach. We're not into the breach yet. We're headed for it.
Right.
We can almost see it from here.
Into the Breach prologue, part 6.
Steve's like, yeah. So the game will be about like exploration and going through this thing and like seeing a new world and blah 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 blah. No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
It's about everyone splitting up all the time. That's what it's about.